Jamie McMurray captured lightning in a bottle 15 years ago. To produce lightning, you must have clouds, and typically a storm. So while it would seem easy to say McMurray just went on one of those incredible runs in winning at Daytona, Indianapolis, and Charlotte all in one season, what you kids don't know, he had to emerge from the tempest to accomplish such a feat. Fired from Roush Fenway Racing following the 2009 season. Okay, so the official line reads, Roush didn't renew his contract. McMurray returned to the Chip Ganassi Racing team where he had started his Cup career. Some wondered what Chip Ganassi saw in McMurray that others didn't. After all, McMurray had earned just 3 victories in 7 years as a Cup driver and just 1 in the last 90 starts.
We brought Jamie into the Cup Series. I knew why he wasn't doing well at Roush. And I knew that our team was different. And I knew that if we brought him back, we could have some success, and that's exactly what we did.
Even Chip Ganassi couldn't have known the success that would come over the next year. McMurray won in his first race back with Ganassi in the Daytona 500, and then followed that up later in the year with a victory in the Brickyard 400. Even the driver himself found it hard to fathom.
If you rewind to October, November of the year before, I basically got fired from Roush. I got let go, and I didn't know if I was even going to have a job. And then to come back and to be able to, go back to the team that I was at prior to that, Chip Ganassi Racing, and win those 2 events, it was pretty unbelievable.
So how did he achieve the unbelievable? To know Jamie McMurray and his MO, you have to go back to when he snagged his first big break in NASCAR. At age 24, he went to drive for Bruco Motorsports, then a competitive Xfinity Series team based in a small Kentucky town about 75 miles away from anything you would call a city. He lived in an apartment atop the shop, and when it snowed, sometimes crew chief Jason Ratcliffe would stay with McMurray instead of driving more than an hour to his home. In those nights, Ratcliffe saw what made McMurray so good.
He was a guy that always invested in himself. Whatever he felt like he needed to be better, he would really push hard to, whether it was to educate himself in a certain area or just to try to understand what he needed to do on the racetrack to give us better feedback or, just to be more competitive.
That attitude seemed to curse McMurray, who could at times think too much. Kevin Mannion, his crew chief for the second stint at Ganassi, knew it came from his competitive desire.
Very, very mental, right? As far as I say that with all due respect, he's very educated and overthinks things, and I think he's in very good shape, always has been, always will be, So I think being mentally strong at the end of these races and then in shape.
Frankly, McMurray had a lot to think about as he returned to Ganassi for a second time. And he didn't join a team on the rise. Mannion's crew had spent the previous 4 years with Martin Truex Jr., first at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated and then with Ganassi after the merger of the 2 organizations. They won just 1 Cup race after capturing back-to-back Xfinity titles with Truex.
I think the team had something to prove as well as Jamie, so the truth be known, I think Jamie was paid on how he finished that year, definitely, low salary and then a good bonus program. I do remember that. So, money drives a lot of people, but I think Jamie just had to prove that he got fired for no reason at all.
Let me explain how it turned into an unforgettable year. It started with an unforgettable Daytona 500. You thought you had seen everything until NASCAR had to red flag its biggest event to repair a pothole in the track. Yes, a pothole. NASCAR stopped the race twice for a total of about 150 minutes to fill the hole in the pavement.
There was some point before the race was over that I was running in the top 10, and I was content to leave because Daytona, every year, everybody talks about points, and you want to leave there with a good points finish. And there was numerous times, that I'd left in the 30s or, just didn't finish that race. And I'm like, man, to be able to leave here with a top 10 would be like a win.
It also marked the first race where NASCAR said it would conduct more than 1 attempt at an overtime finish, with 3 overtime finishes the maximum on the super speedways. Drivers wondered how would that impact overtimes and if they would keep crashing. So, of course, the Daytona 500 went into overtime. On the first OT restart, Kevin Harvick took the lead from Greg Biffle before the caution came out to re-rack the field. Harvick would start beside McMurray on the front row, with McMurray having Biffle, who was his former Roush teammate, behind him, and Biffle gave McMurray the push he needed to clear Harvick on the backstretch, and then Biffle attempted to make a pass on the last lap, but he lost his drafting partner, Clint Boyer. Dale Earnhardt Jr. slipped into second, but with no help, Earnhardt had little choice but to follow McMurray across the finish line. Harvick, who led a race-high 41 laps that day, finished 7th.
I don't know that we've ever really even talked about it. You know, I think Jamie is a lot like I am. We're both kind of numb to what we did, and you lost so many races, and you wound up winning races, and that it kind of just becomes part of the process. But no, I mean, Jamie, I've spent a lot of time around Jamie, and he's just not the type of person that's going to rib you.
McMurray won and celebrated and still had another big race to win. And once again, he would pass Kevin Harvick to do it. In those days, and continuing on to today, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway looms as a place that Ganassi wants to thrive. He had won his third Indianapolis 500 with Dario Franchitti earlier in the year. Then came the NASCAR team's turn, and McMurray, this time on a restart with 11 laps remaining, took the green flag side by side with Harvick.
Brickyard is interesting because 2003, I thought I had the best car at the Brickyard and led some laps, and Kevin Harvick ended up winning. Had to fast forward ahead to 2010, and Kevin Harvick passes me for the lead late in the race. And I remember thinking, I can't believe the same guy is going to beat me in this race both times I had a shot to win.
That didn't happen. McMurray passed Harvick to lead those final 11 laps. He could see the official waving the white flag and admitted he took it all in on the final circuit as he won by 1.3 seconds.
And I remember at that moment thinking, like, you need to really savor exactly the next 50 seconds because it's about a lap time there. And take all this in, and then obviously like coming off turn 4 and they start waving the checkered flag pretty early and you can see it.
The next day, McMurray and Dario Franchitti posed at the famed Yard of Bricks at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Talk about a flex.
How the hell does this happen? Stars were aligned for sure. The Daytona 500 win is everybody's dream. You know, if you're a NASCAR driver, Daytona 500's it. That's the top of the peak, and you know, everything else is below that. But if there ever is one that's just below it, it'd be the Brickyard 400 over there in Indianapolis, and he won that one too. So just wild to think that he accomplished, you know, those milestone career races.
How did it happen? The same way McMurray made something happen 8 years earlier in just his second career Cup start in 2002, where he won at Charlotte as the replacement for the injured Sterling Marlin for his first National Series victory.
He's one of these guys that if you put a car underneath him, he could take it to the front, you know, and he stepped in when Sterling Marlin got hurt, and he was already signed with us for the following year, and you know, Sterling got hurt and we needed to put a driver in, and I said, well, heck, if the guy's good enough for next year, he's good enough for now. So we put him in the car, and away he went.
McMurray went and won a few races and then went to Roush Fenway and back to Ganassi, where he found that similar magic in winning Daytona and Indianapolis. He didn't qualify for the playoffs that year, as NASCAR back then still determined its playoff field solely by points. But McMurray wasn't done yet. At Charlotte, McMurray took the lead again on a restart as he blew past Kyle Busch with 21 laps to go. He went on to win by 1.8 seconds, taking advantage of a tire and aero combination that seemed to fit in his wheelhouse. That win ranked as another big victory on the McMurray resume. That resume holds the incredible memories of 15 years ago, none more clear than the finish of the 2010 Daytona 500.
I can still see the 88 car, Dale Jr., in my mirror off turn 4, and he had a little bit of a run, but I could tell he didn't have enough of a run to get to me. And I can see out the windshield at the flagman waving the checkered flag. And just that all happened really slow, at least in my mind. And I can still see that. And it's like one of the memories I feel like that I think about every once in a while because I don't ever want to forget it.